This is Boomer Life on CISL 650.
Need money. Need money. Talking about money, money, money. We need some money. We need moolah, y'all.
We do need moolah. Bring it on. It's Boomer Life on CISL 650. I'm Stirling Faux, joined in studio by Brett Luckin, a trustee in bankruptcy with Abakhan and Associates, with 5 offices across British Columbia, from Victoria all the way up to Prince George, with a couple here in the Lower Mainland, in Surrey and in Vancouver as well. Brett spends about half of his professional time up in the Okanagan, helping people in that way. But Brett, a couple of things that we do need to resolve here as we are in the waning few moments of the program already. And one, and this is really important, from the perspective of a creditor, all debts are not equal. There are some creditors with, shall we say, more status than others when it comes to resolving personal debt. Explain all of this.
I'll mention 3. There's quite a few, but by far the most common are, first of all, Canada Revenue Agency debts.
If you owe tax to the feds.
If you owe a lot of income tax, in fact, if you owe more than $200,000 worth of income tax to the feds, and I've got to tell you that sometimes that doesn't mean you started off that way. You may well only have owed them $30,000, $40,000, $50,000, $60,000, but with penalties and interest, it's climbed over $200,000. That's a special kind of debt, and that is dealt with differently. It's not quite so easy to shake that one away as it would be normally. Other debts are things like student loans. Those are dealt with a little bit differently. If you were last registered...
Again, you're dealing with the feds here again, aren't you?
You are.
All right.
If you were last registered as a student more than 7 years ago, when you file a bankruptcy or proposal, it will be extinguished. But if 7 years has not yet passed, it won't be. It will survive your bankruptcy and your proposal.
The entire owed amount.
The entire owed amount, exactly. And then another one is the arrear child support and spousal support. It's a preference. When I say a preference, it's a preferential debt, and it needs to be dealt with 100 cents on the dollar, and it will in fact survive a bankruptcy.
Oh, okay.
So if you don't, filing a bankruptcy or a proposal will not extinguish arrear child or spousal support either. So these are debts which will follow you, and if you have debts like that, making assumptions based on what you read on the internet is not a good idea. You should be speaking to a trustee in bankruptcy to be clear on exactly how it will impact you if you have debts like those.
Right, and if you owe the government, whether it's a student loan or tax arrears or both, and that wouldn't be the first time that had happened, or if you're in a hawk on child payments and child support payments, these are different categories, aren't they? And you're not going to be treated like you owe money on your department store credit card
or your line of credit or something like that.
Right.
Another one is if you're a sole proprietorship and you're running a business, things like GST and payroll deductions, when you take money off an employee in order to pay it off to Canada Revenue Agency, and you don't make that payment over, that's also a special debt, and it has some pretty severe consequences if that runs up too high for you.
Right. So all the more reason, if you're listening and you see yourself in, or you know someone who is in one or more of those categories and behind the 8 ball, all the more reason to encourage that individual to seek professional help, to find a trustee in bankruptcy and have that very important discussion.
And I have a lot of discussions with people. Understand as well that when you phone, we don't pay you. You don't pay us. There's no cost to calling me. There's no cost to calling a trustee in bankruptcy. You come in, the first consultation is completely free.
Okay.
In fact, on a practical level, actually sometimes I speak to people 3, 4, 5, 6 times before they eventually decide whether they're going to file or not.
Right.
There is no charge for any of that. So it's wise when you've got someone who spends so much time learning how the process works. It just makes clever sense to use their expertise if they're not going to charge you for it.
Right, exactly. I mean, if it's free and it is as helpful as we know a professional like a trustee in bankruptcy can be to a person who is beset upon by those creditor types, then it makes perfect sense to sit down and not spend any money and learn a whole lot for no other reason than peace of mind, Brett.
Yes, exactly. You know what, and there's also what you'll find coming and talking to a trustee in bankruptcy, very often we can look at your financial situation and tell you shouldn't be going bankrupt. You shouldn't be filing a proposal. You know what, if you just
organize
managed
yourself,
your money a little bit better and point out where. Just the other day, I think I was mentioning to you about a lady who earns in excess of a net income of $5,000, has credit card debt and various other kinds of debt of only $30,000.
Okay.
And she's coming to me and saying she has to go bankrupt because she's getting called by the bank every day to pay her credit card off in full. And I'm sitting down and I'm looking at her income and I'm thinking to myself, no.
How can that be?
You should not be phoning someone like me.
Right, right.
And then going through her income, almost like someone is helping her with her budget and just saying, you know what, if you just did this, this, and this, you would get rid of this debt inside of just a few years.
Right.
And you wouldn't have to do anything formally. You wouldn't have to file a bankruptcy. You wouldn't have to file a proposal. And sometimes phoning someone like us to give you a little bit of a reality check on where you're spending $500 or $600 a month. Her groceries bill was $1,200 a month.
Ah, okay.
Just her.
Whoa, one person.
One person. And that didn't even include the $300 that she spent on average every month at dining out in restaurants. So at $1,500, she could probably have afforded a little bit of a crimp on her lifestyle to pay her debt off.
That's right.
But she needed someone like me to tell her.
Only a couple of minutes left, and with that kind of practical advice in mind, focus on boomers. This is Boomer Life on CISL 650. A lot of us, we talked about the bank of mom and dad.
Right.
A lot of us are involved in our children's lives, giving them money for a deposit on a house, maybe co-signing on a car. We're making enormous commitments to assist them. What do we need to do so that our good intentions can survive, but we don't get wiped out in the process if things go south?
Protect yourself. Approach the situation like a financial transaction, that if you were loaning money from the bank wouldn't just give you 50 grand to buy a house.
Right.
It would take security against the property. Take a mortgage. Mom and dad called me the other day. What happened was their daughter, they put down $120,000 to help their daughter and the new husband move into a property that was literally inside the same strata complex as themselves.
Oh, okay, right.
Okay. Daughter and husband 3 years later can't afford to pay the mortgage, and as a result of various personal situations, he goes bankrupt. Mom and dad never took security against the house, a mortgage against the home. He's going bankrupt. His half of the house is now part of the estate of the trustee in bankruptcy, and mom and dad are out a substantial sum of money and never going to get that money paid back to them. Yet if they had put a mortgage against the property right up front in the beginning, speak to a lawyer, speak to a trustee in bankruptcy, speak to an expert, they would not be in that situation.
So again, you're not discouraging anyone from being actively involved in the lives of children, grandchildren, nieces, and nephews, but for crying out loud, don't be foolish about it. Don't be taken advantage of. Your good intentions, maybe they're pressing your buttons because they know where they are, and all very well and good, but just protect yourself.
Protect yourself, yes. Ultimately, here's the thing. If you're going to loan $1,000 to someone, and you figure it's a gift, then it's a gift. Don't ever expect repayment.
Right.
But if you're going to loan $1,000 to someone and you expect to be repaid,
Say
find
so.
a way to protect yourself.
That's right. Our guest is Brett Luckin from Abakhan and Associates. Good to have you come back. We always appreciate your popping in. It's wonderful chat and some very instructive content as well, Brett. Good to see you.
Thanks very much.
Abakhan and Associates can be found online at Abakhan, ABAKHAN.com. Check them out. They're very helpful, knowledgeable people. That's it for Boomer Life. See you next time.